It's a series of powerful conversations where we have inspirational personalities coming from diverse backgrounds. So even today, when we have one such very inspirational personality, and she is very unique because she has taken a very bold transition from, listen carefully, from uh, loving what we do to doing what we actually love. I repeat again, loving what we do till doing what we actually love. So I would like to take forward this session and invite Zainab Gora to introduce you all to our today's guest. Zainab, over to you.
Hello, good evening. Hello, good evening, everyone. I, Zainab Gora, along with Krishnapal and Vedant, are going to take up today's session. Welcome, ma'am. We are elated to have you among us. I am super excited to introduce you as an awarded winning author, Nandita da Cunha. She is an award-winning children book author based in Mumbai. After her MBA, she worked in corporate sector for 14 years before making a drastic career change. Writing for children, it has been the best decision of her life. She released 5 books during uh, despite pandemic, which received widespread recognition in and award. This include the Miracle on Sundar Bagh Street, which reader category, just like Papa, currently shortlisted for Jarul Book Award. Penju and the Big Booms, longlisted for the JK Times of India Best Author Award. She enjoys making music on her piano, bird watching, pottering about her terrace farming. Ma'am, we would like to know more about you, and I know you more prepared something special for us.
Yeah, she is all set to share her life journey as an author.
Over to you, Nandita ma'am.
Hi, students. What a lovely, warm welcome. And thank you so much for taking this time out on a Saturday to spend time with me. I'm very happy and very honored to be here. It's what a lovely initiative, Amrit Vani and conversations, because I think conversations are the best way that we all learn, you and me alike. So I'm really looking forward to chatting with you all, to all the questions that you may have for me. And yes, like you all mentioned, I do have a very small, brief presentation to share with you on my life journey before we get into the conversation. I'll make it brief so that we can spend more time on the conversation. So I'm just going to take a second to share my screen with you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Can you see that? Okay. So there we are. Can you all see the screen?
Yes.
Okay. It's a story because, as you know, we authors love stories and telling stories. So this is another story, but this is the story of my life, of my journey. And before I begin, can you all think or remember the last time you tried something new, something very different for you all? It could be anything you tried this year, or maybe the years when we were all locked down and we all had to try different things. I don't know, a new recipe or a hobby or a new language, something very different. Think of the last time you tried something you weren't used to. And the second thing I want you to think of is, how did it make you feel? The first time you tried that, it could be cycling, or the first time you got onto that cycle. How did it make you feel trying something new? Excited, hopeful, or like a little nervous, worried, anxious? A lot of, or maybe all of it, a little of different feelings. So we'll come back to that a little later. So keep that in your mind. Hi there. Hello, everyone. I'm Nandita. And this is the story of how I tried something very, very new and my experience with that. Once Upon a Time is the title of this slide. Like all good stories begin once upon a time, so did mine. And these waves you see were my journey up and until around 5 years ago. And these milestones you see, these really were the way I used to describe. If I met someone for the first time, someone new, and they said, "Hi, what's your name and what do you do?" This is how I would describe myself, how I would define myself. Based in Mumbai, I did my BCom. After that, I studied management. I did marketing and finance. And then I spent a lot of years, first with Anderson and then with KPMG, two big companies, in business strategy consulting. And what did that mean? That meant that I was very busy a lot of the time for 14 years, meeting a lot of people, clients, working in many different teams, working on many different projects. It was challenging, it was tough, it was exciting, a lot of things. And that was, I was just like on this roll, on this path for many years of my life. Like I said, 5 years ago, when you see that last slightly confused person over there, that's when I suddenly hit that point. My family life was also going good. I had two lovely daughters. One was by then around 5 years. The younger one was 3 years old. So I said, let me take a small break. My daughters are young. I want to spend time with them. That's what I did. I took a step back. It was supposed to be a small break before I went back, recharged to work. And during that break, when I found that I had a lot of time to sit and think, time which I hadn't had for quite a while, a lot of difficult questions began coming in my mind. What had I been doing all these years? Hand on heart, could I really say I'd been doing the thing that I loved, the thing that I loved waking up on a Monday morning to do, that this was really what I felt I wanted to do for the next 20, 30 years? Difficult questions. And I suddenly wasn't sure at all. I really wasn't so sure of the answers. And there were two voices in my head. Okay, so one voice was asking all these questions, what have you been doing? Is it your passion? And so on. And the second one was, what's wrong with you? There's nothing wrong with what you've been doing and you've been successful at it, so why change or why do something different when it's going well right now? And that brought me to another very interesting question. I'm going to share 5 sort of things that, I've been thinking about on this journey. And this is the first. And that's, what is success? What is success? Each one of you can sort of just ask yourselves these questions at this point. If you had to say, I've been successful, what does it mean to you? For some people, it might mean coming first at whatever it is you want to do, maybe winning that award. For some people, it may be being the first to do something, to invent, discover, pioneer. For some, it's getting a job, a certain job you wanted, getting a promotion, reaching a certain level. So different things for different people. For some, it's getting very rich. That's why you see that little piggy bank picture. Different definitions. And at the bottom of that slide, you see that little smiley, happy face, because the idea is that to achieve success, if you achieve all these wonderful things, you said, if I just get there, I know I have been successful. Then you will, have this happy smiley face. But that seemed to be a little mixed up for me. It seemed a little mixed up. And I was asking myself, all these definitions, every step of my way, when I was saying, yeah, I've done this, now this is the, whose definition of success was I using to move ahead, to say I'd been successful? Was that the way I wanted to look at it? And a sort of realization came upon me. I found a beautiful quote that, sort of captures what I'm saying, which is, success in itself is not necessarily the key to happiness. Sometimes it explains why even after we've achieved that thing that we said, oh, I just need to get into this school, college place, I just need to win this, I just need to stand first in that class. And after that, you're feeling a little empty, a little hollow. Maybe you're just looking for the next success. And why is that? It's not necessarily the key to happiness, but happiness is definitely and always the key to success. If you are doing that thing you love in a way that you love doing it, you will be successful. That in itself will be your success. And the more I thought about this, the more I internalized this. Wonderful, but then what is that thing that I want to be doing? And today, when a lot of people meet me, they say, "Oh, Nandita, you're so lucky. You know, you found that that thing that you want to do and your passion. And even we really want to do that thing that we love, but we don't still know what that is. The day we find it, we will surely follow our passion. But right now, you know, we're just moving along that path, where, you know, that everyone's path to success." And that thing didn't come overnight to me at all. Actually, it didn't. I'd spent too much time doing something very different. And so I then came to question two. So what is my passion? And I thought about all there were, I mean, I'm aware of many very small things that make me happy, that, you know, while I was doing, I really love doing. Music makes me happy. I play the piano. I used to perform. Writing always made me happy. Interacting with children, my own girls, sharing my passions in some way through education, through thought process, through workshops. I used to do a lot of different stuff that made me happy. So I began trying them out. I just dived into it and began trying out different things, because you never know till you try, right? I actually became a certified music educator for children. I began running small kinder music classes. Then I enrolled in this playwright workshop. At one point, I said, I'm going to be a playwright. And for 3 years, you know, we had a lot of small workshops held, at the end of which we put up a big program of plays. Wonderful. But I liked it as a one-time exercise. I realized that having gone through that, I spoke to a couple of people who were doing wonderful things, because I said, okay, I think I'm good at communication and marketing and selling, convincing people. Can I do that for good? I spoke to people who did a lot of good social projects in Bombay and NGO, a lot of things, and many more. I've just put a few on screen. And it's only through that process of really, I've written trying multiple hats, just figuring out. You never know till you just try different things, go out there, have conversations with people, speak to people doing different things. And yes, I came across this one thing that just seemed to have a little bit of everything that made me who I am, and that was writing for children. Because it's not just about writing, it's interacting with a whole set of wonderful people in the book publishing sector, and then getting to share with children in sessions like this, editing, traveling, book readings. It had so many of the things that I wanted to do. In some ways, sharing my thoughts through books. So a little bit of education came in there as well. That wasn't the end of my story. That was just the beginning. Wonderful though that realization was. Because then comes the fear when you're trying anything new. And the more different it is from anything you've done in the past, really, the bigger the fear. You know that picture you see there? That isn't me climbing up one book at a time, big achiever. That is what in publishing they call the slush pile. Okay, so if you're an editor, if you work for a book publishing company, every morning, a lot of people send you their books and they say, please publish me, please publish me. And okay, not all of them can be published, right? So there's rejection after rejection after rejection. And that's one poor editor saying, I'm lost in this pile. I'm not even sure I can read them all in a day. And so, of course, yes, when I started out, it wasn't that easy. I wasn't known. My stories were probably at the bottom of the pile when I sent it to editors and they were reading it. And I got back very polite, very sweet, but very clear no's in the beginning, you know. Book publishers said, we loved your book, but, you know, we only publish 2 books a year and we finished those 2. Or we love your book, but right now we're only doing science books. Can you rewrite it as a science story? And he said, no, this is a fantasy story. And, you know, that kind of a thing. It didn't work out in the start. But I had expected that. I'd said I would give this a good amount of time, you know, commitment before I sort of gave up on it. So I think one big learning was, yes, I mean, I thought big. I had these dreams that, you know, I had these goals. I will become an author, I will publish books, this many books, I will take my stories to children. But I knew that to get there, you have to start small, lots of small steps at a time. And every day I was at it. I was researching for one story, writing another, trying to reach out and create some contacts with publishers as a third, all sorts of things simultaneously. Small steps to sort of get me a little closer to where I wanted to go. And I kept in mind the fact that I'm not alone. You're seeing some wonderful people out there. They may be very known to you. Dr. Sears, very popular writer of a lot of children's books as you all grew up. J.K. Rowling, a name you all know. Walt Disney, inventor Mickey Mouse, Albert Einstein. So what did they all have in common? Of course, besides the fact that they're all very wildly famous and successful by any definition, pioneers in their field, they all faced very serious rejection at the start of their careers, very serious. Dr. Sears, writer of Cat in the Hat and Grinch and lovely books, his first book, I think I saw it in Mulberry Street, was rejected 28 times. 28 times, this first book. And he was at it and he submitted it to the 29th and they accepted it. And that's, the rest was history. J.K. Rowling, she took 7 years to write her book during a very difficult time of her life. The wonderful Harry Potter. I mean, today it's unthinkable, but 12 publishing houses refused to publish it one after the other. They said, we don't think children would like this kind of a story. And there's nothing like that in the market. And, lucky 13th publisher who accepted it and said, let's try this. But she didn't give up. She got a rejection and all she did was turn around and submit it yet again. Walt Disney, his first company went bankrupt for 5 years that he spent trying to set it up. And then after that, he spent a little more time and came up with Disney, with animation and Mickey Mouse, which has lasted years and decades. And Albert Einstein. I've just put on a few points there, but gosh, if you read, the story of his life, and he didn't read till he was 7, he got expelled at school, he failed his exam for Polytechnic. His father called him a failure. His teacher said, you're a slow learner. He even started working as an insurance salesman, quit because he failed at that, and moved on. None of these really considered, any of these failures as some comment on themselves. It was just part of the process of kind of getting to do what they wanted to do. And they stayed positive and they moved on. So did I. And some few things I learned along the way. One is that inspiration is all around. It doesn't have to be a lonely process. These things we do in 2 ways. One is inspiration for my books, and I'll talk about that a lot later with you all. I really took from so many things that I've seen and experienced, and I was glad for being such a, a much older writer than many new authors, because I could draw on my own experiences. And more importantly, there were people all around who helped me, family that supported, role models, people in publishing, ex-colleagues. Help is always there and around. If you're ready to ask for it, reach out for it, it's there to help you in so many ways. And the biggest support very often is family. And my family was very supportive that I, took this strange decision. I quit a corporate career. I just was sitting down and writing, even though no one was initially accepting my books. And finally, I'm at a point now when, it's taken off. The books have finally some publishers saw some merit in it. Books are published. But till today, I realized that to make this work, you have to continuously be a student. Keep learning. You are in school, but the day you leave school, it's just the beginning of the rest of your life. And if you see everything as a chance for continuous learning, that's what I did. I believed that I had some spark in me for writing. That's why I got into writing, but never for a moment did I think I didn't need to be humble and learn from scratch. I enrolled in writers' workshops. I did a lot to polish up my skill in the craft of writing. Even old skills, I polished up and tried to use them in new ways. If I were good at technology, I tried to build up my own website and so on. And really it came down to this discipline of every single day, I would sit at my desk every single day and spend a couple of hours related to moving those few steps ahead towards what I want to do. So keep learning, and the best way to learn, of course, is read some more. I put that in no matter any kind of presentation I make on any topic. It often really comes down to the best way of learning. Read, then read some more. And so we have this last slide, which of course ends like stories with happily ever. But of course, it's still somewhere along that journey, but I've reached a happy point where I've done this U-turn at 40 plus, so it's never too late. And this is where I'm at today. The last few years, last 2 years, like one of your friends read out, I've had 5 books published. These are some of them. And I get a lot of chances at book fairs, visiting schools, bookstores, to share them with a lot of children. So I've absolutely been able to do the things I wanted to do, write books about the topics that were really close to me and share them at so many forums. And still, hopefully, a long way to go. So that break, which was supposed to be a small break, and going back to work today, I absolutely know that this is the thing I want to do. This is the thing that I want to continue doing for the next, 20, 30 years. So I'm just ending this on a small little cartoon, because nothing like Alvin and Hobbes to say what I'm trying to say. And there we have the little boy up there, and he's got himself this helium balloon, and he's all excited. He's ready to go off on adventures, on journeys. He's hoping the balloon will lead him away somewhere. And then he's standing there and saying, nothing's happening. All said, nothing's happening. And he says, try jumping, because nothing is going to happen unless you take that first move. You push yourself out of that comfort zone. So that's what I did. It worked for me. Not at first, but it worked out in the end, like all journeys and all stories do. So that's it for now from me. And I'd love to talk about any points in this presentation during our chat that you want to know more about. Just stop sharing this.
Thank you, ma'am. It was such an inspiring journey. Now I call upon Krishnapal and Vedant to take forward this session. Over to you, Krishnapal.
Good evening, Nandita ma'am.
Good
The
evening.
biggest wonder that I found was your transition from corporate field to an author. I would like to know, why did you take that decision and what were your later experiences?
Yeah, so it was not a decision taken very easily, like I said. It was a decision taken with a lot of anxieties, fear, what if this, what if that. But really, I kept asking myself that question, what I'm currently doing, is it the thing that makes me happy? And I said, let me give it a chance to explore the thing that I think I'll enjoy doing, give it a chance. And if it works out, and I'm in such a happy place right now. I spoke to you all about getting up on a Monday morning and, looking forward to the week. That's how it is right now. And how was my experience? Not smooth. Of all things, I began, even after my first few books got accepted by publishers, there came this very big worldwide event, right? Pandemic. So it wasn't the best of timing to start a new career. But then somehow the universe works in strange ways and to help you. So during these years, I've done so many Zoom calls like this. I've actually been able to reach out to children, not just in Mumbai, all across the country, even a few in international sessions. So I've, what I thought would be like a major hurdle right at the start got smoothened out. It's worked out. So it was a bit challenging. It continues to have its ups and downs till today. But really, I'm very clear that there's nothing else I'd rather be doing.
Hello Nandita ma'am, I am Vedant. I read one of your stories named Saturday. It was a fun. I would like to know that what are your sources of inspiration while choosing characters and themes for your stories?
Yes, now let me talk a little bit about my books. And I'm so happy and excited that you've read one. I did mention, I get a lot of inspiration from real life people, events, yeah, things that are actually around me. And I want to give you some examples. For example, this is a story a lot of people relate to. It's called The Miracle on Sundarbag Street. And it's the story of this young girl, Zara. And the story starts off with her being very lonely. She used to sit quietly in a dump yard next to her house every day. And she was in a sad place. And a lady comes in, an old ex-teacher of hers, and she changes her life. She suggests that, why are we sitting in this dump yard? You know what it used to be? It used to be a beautiful garden. And that puts an idea into Zara's head. And together, they get a lot of people involved, and they actually transform that space into a beautiful garden. And through that project, through that whole experience, and it wasn't smooth, there were ups and downs. Yeah, through that she changes herself. I mean, as much as the garden transforms, the soul transforms. So this was based on a real story about a group of people who live very close to me, 2 roads away from where I live. And there was this old plot of land that was very run down and a bit unsafe to even go to. It was a BMC plot. And these people said, why do we keep waiting for others to do something about where we live? And they took charge. They got people on the street in every Sunday, and they worked, and they transformed that space into a beautiful, I'll show you some of these illustrations. Whole community working together, the power of everyone getting together and sharing. I heard this story and I wanted to communicate it somehow. So the story is fictional, the girl is fictional, but it's absolutely inspired by the true story of a group of people who transformed an old plot into a beautiful garden. And it's touched such a chord with people with these kind of themes that one person can start making a difference, greenery and environment, what it can do to us. And most of my books, a lot of them are built this way. This is about a girl who's dragged by her mother to Ladakh. It's My Trip to La La Land. It's written in a diary format. So it's for slightly older children. And she's, she's happiest sitting at home and doing nothing. It's a holidays. She wants to read and read some more and sleep some more. But her mother's dragged her to Ladakh in North India. And her mother's on this project of setting up a library for children. And bit by bit, that whole experience, she gets so involved with it. She makes friends. She also transforms. Again, this is very much based on some wonderful work being done by a group in Ladakh. They've started a scheme where normal people, you and I, can join up and be volunteerists. So we volunteer, we do some good work over there, and we also discover a new place, and we get to travel while doing it, and in a very authentic way see beautiful new places. So the experience of many people who did volunteerism in Ladakh was the trigger for my coming up with this story. Again, the story is fiction, but a lot of real life inspiration for that. And maybe I'll share one more, The Magic in My Fingers. This again is absolutely and directly based on the life of a very inspirational character from the past, Annapurna Devi. And she was a maestro in sitar and surbar instruments, but she's not very well known because she wasn't in her career more for performance or making a name or fame. Annapurna Devi was different. She played for the love of music itself. So this is actually a story that just talks about one day in her life, one small episode that changed her entire life. It's about how she came about to play. And it was a very interesting anecdote because she wasn't being taught music. Her brother was being taught. In those days, her father said, why will girls learn an instrument? They should be learning, being in the kitchen and learning to cook. And that actually happened. And she had so much talent. It just couldn't be held inside. So one day she was listening to her brother's practice and he was playing all wrong. And she said, that's not what Baba has taught you. And she corrected him. And she sang out Baba's whole lesson for him because she'd been listening in as she does. Pitch perfect and wonderful. And Baba was there. He had come home from somewhere they didn't realize, and he heard that. And he realized that the one he had not been teaching was the student who had learned and surpassed what he was trying to teach. And from that day on, he began teaching her. And there's so much I thought we can learn from a story like that. So again, I've created a fictional story based on that one moment. And there's a lot of information at the back of the book about the real life inspiration, part fiction, part reality. That's how a lot of my books are. They are based on people, on events around me, which I feel give us some kind of positive message, something that we can think over while creating, fictional stories around it. Because at the end of the day, fiction is to be enjoyed. There's drama, adventure. There's a story based in Goa, which I wrote, Pedro and the Big Boom. There's about an explorer called Pedro, and he wants to run away from home. He's a naughty boy. So I've created this character, but at the heart of it, it's a story about what was happening to his beautiful homeland in Goa. And there was mining going on and in the hills behind them. And this little boy took on a very big mining company. This naughty little boy who thought that he wanted to run away landed up saving his village from a lot of disaster. So I mix reality and fiction and the themes that I find interesting. That was a long answer to a small question.
What is the best thing about writing stories for children?
Oh, many wonderful things about writing. But if I were to sort of just speak about a few, I think the best is once your book is already out there, after you've published your stories and it's there for the rest to read, it's getting reactions from your readers. Because writing is a lovely process. When I'm writing, I lose track of time. I'm immersed in my writing. It tends to be a bit of a lonely process, a bit of an individual process. It's just you sitting at your desk writing. But once your book is, like I said, out there, and you actually have readers telling you how they connect with the book, how they see your book, that is very exciting about the process to me. There are times when readers see things in the book I'm not sure I saw myself. Each one takes away something different from it. So book reading, I get a lot of feedback. Children write to me. We have book reading sessions where I get direct feedback, or at book festivals. These are some of the occasions when I get reactions. And that is a really wonderful part of the process. And the second is really sharing, once I've written my first draft, interacting with a lot of wonderful people that go into making a book. And that's a very exciting process, working with your illustrator, with your editors, with the design team who will lay out your book. And, once it becomes collaborative, lots of people work towards making your book the best that they can. There will be people from the marketing team who will have great ideas on making me make these videos and going on social media, all sorts of things. So I think I'm doing one thing, but I still get a chance to wear very many hats and do a lot of things around my books. That's very exciting. Events such as these, of course. Do you have any other questions?
What was the feeling when you received your first award as a writer in 2021?
My first award. Yeah, I think that that was the Neve Award. Probably that was for the Miracle on Sundarbag Street. And this little book, I never imagined it would turn into such a success. But really, that award for me, I think the first feeling was reassurance. I've spoken a lot about the slight insecurity, worry, anxiousness when you're doing something new. But for me, getting awards or getting feedback is a little bit of reassurance that other people are also connecting with my books, that I am on the right track in some way. So very exciting and so on later. But the first feeling of yes, it wasn't too late, because when I first started out, I was at a point where I was like at a high in my previous career, in many which ways, because when you've been doing the same thing for 14 years, you get kind of good at it, and you move along. And so I was very so-called successful at that point. So when I felt like that little boy who jumped off, and I did jump off that. So was I going to crash land bang on my face? But then, very soon, when the very first, and this was the first book I did, book receives an award, you know that it means that a lot of people out there are going to be reading it, and a lot of people liked what he did. So it was a reassurance largely. In fact, if we have time later, I would love to read out a little from this. One of the teachers had suggested. So maybe we could do a 5-minute reading at the end of this book.
Which writer do you admire the most and why?
Which writer? That's a very good question. Again, a difficult one, because you said one writer. So I love reading fantasy books, fantasy genre. That's for me, really books that take you places, where writers at the height of their imagination create whole new worlds. My very, my book for much older children, Magica Maya, was set in a land of music. It was a fantasy story. And so as I grew up, of course, we grew up with J.K. Rowling and Harry Potter, but the writer that I admire the most was J.R.R. Tolkien. And he wrote this trilogy, a book set in a complete fantasy world, Lord of the Rings. And what was so amazing was his world making. The amount of detail he went into to create this world, different type of characters who lived in the world. He created a whole new language for this world. He detailed the maps and topography and all the kind of work and research that he did before he even started writing. And it reflects so well and so clearly when you read his books, because you're totally transported into a different world. So like I said, fantasy, imagination, it's all there with some wonderful characters in Tolkien. But of late, I find myself reading a lot more Indian authors, a lot more books, even for children, by Indian authors. And it's like I'm moving backwards, because now I tend to read a lot more picture books, which are the books for early children, 4 to 7 years old, because those are the books I also write, right? So what better job than one where you can keep reading books and say, oh, but I'm working, it's part of my research and what I need to do. So it's a great time for Indian publishing. There are a lot of wonderful Indian authors also out there who are writing children books. So I spoke about my favorite author for adult books, but in children's fiction, there are wonderful authors like Anushka Ravishankar, Natasha Sharma, and these were some of my role models when I began writing. It came as quite a revelation to see how today children have books set in a context that they understand, that they are familiar with. We grew up a lot on authors like Enid Blyton, because that's all that we had when we visited our libraries or at school. But you all have so much wonderful choice today. International writers, Indian writers where you can relate to the children and the settings in the books as well. So that's really fantastic.
It would be a pleasure to have a live experience of your stories by you itself. Can you read out one of your favorite stories for us?
My pleasure. I was really thinking of, in fact, so I won't read the whole book. But let me do one thing. I'll read a small excerpt from that. And while I do that, since I'm still able to share screen, I'm going to put up some of the illustrations of the story, so you all can get to watch something besides me while I read. Just give me a minute. These illustrations were done by a wonderful illustrator called Priya Kurian. And she's done them in a very interesting mixed media style, like collages that she's put together. So I think that would really be a treat to see. Okay, are you all able to see this presentation? Are you able to see these illustrations? Okay. So the miracle on Sundarbag Street. And I'm going to go quickly through the first part till I start reading. Like I said, it's a story of this girl, Zara, and she was very lonely, and she would be, sitting in that dump yard day in and day out, with no one to keep her company, but one rap gang that used to meet there to practice their rap songs every day. And everything around her was leafless, lifeless trees, garbage. It was a dump. Then one day in hobbled Miss Guppy, her old craft teacher, and she brought some seeds in a bright red bowl, and sparrows came down. But as you can see from Zara's face, she was not very excited. She was used to being alone. But bit by bit, Miss Guppy, and she, really began drawing her in. She began talking to her and saying, "Do you know what this place used to be?" And Zara began getting a bit curious and a little more curious. And together, Miss Guppy one day told her about what that used to be. It was a garden. And I'm going to read from here onwards. "It was a garden," said Miss Guppy. "I used to sit here and listen to children playing their flute from the bungalow there. We'd chat and knit for babies. Little squirrels would scurry about. There were gulmohars, laburnums dripping with golden flower showers. And oh, carpets of flowers below, marigolds, pale pink musandas." That night in Zara's dream, pink and white flowers intertwined with great blossoming creepers. The next night, her dream garden added flowers of every hue. By the next time she sat beside Miss Guppy in the junkyard, she could almost see this garden around her with her eyes wide open. "I'm going to grow back the garden," she announced. "About time," said Miss Guppy, cracking her knuckles. It wasn't so easy, though, to just grow back a garden. First, they needed help to clear the junk. So Zara called the Toadford boys and asked them for their help. But even once they'd cleared all the clutter, as they got rid of that last piece of scrap, Miss Guppy stomped on the earth that they had uncovered, and she wailed. "Too dry, too hard," she said. "Nothing will grow here. The ground is dead." Tears welled up in Zara's eyes. But wait a minute. What were those trucks there with? Sacks of rich red mud? Wow, it was a lot to manage. But by then, the thought of a garden had taken root in Zara's mind, and she didn't give up. So she put up a brightly crayoned sign saying, "Help save our Sundarbag." Curiously, people peeped in. Slowly a few more, and then many more shuffled in. They brought shovels and spades, shears and rakes, saplings and seeds. Some of them spread the mud and raked it well. Others planted, trimmed, yet others swung in, holding bed sheets full of dried leaves to feed their new soil. And those who had nothing else to do brought snacks to feed everyone. Soon, her garden was buzzing. Every evening, she basked in the warmth of all the chattering and tongue thwacking. You can see all the fun going on. But it took a long time to see any change. But they kept on working and waiting, working and waiting. Zara was the most patient and persistent of all. She would sprout new ideas every day. A milk can became a planter. A tire became a swing, a plank, a bench. They called themselves the Build Our Bag team. Together they cried the day that rains lashed down and killed their banana plants. But together they celebrated the day and they celebrated with Miss Guppy's famous mulberry cake, when, miracle of miracles, a mulberry tree fruited for the first time in their garden, the first time in 20 years. And together they watched their garden grow and grow and grow. It grew so big and green and lovely that the street's most famous resident was called upon to celebrate its reopening. Miss Guppy took him to meet the youngest member of their team. Come, she said, "Meet the girl who started it all." "Me? Zara?" asked the big man. "Papa," whispered Zara. It was her father. She was sitting alone, friends, in that bench every day. because she was all alone. Her mother had just passed away, the bits that we didn't read. And she was finding it difficult to cope with that. And so was her father. So she, they weren't speaking for a long time before this story started. But all of a sudden, Papa, whispered Zara. Amazing, said her papa, simply amazing. And Zara took him by the hand and showed him the flower beds with bright yellow marigolds and vegetable patches with their tomatoes and chilies. And Papa said, Zara, I brought a cutting from an old plant of your mother's. Shall we plant it together? And her heart, it just burst into 1,000 blooms. All she could whisper was, her roses. And then the story ends the way that it began. Still with Zara, same girl, same bench, but something is different. So Zara still sits on her bench every evening. She watches the birds and the butterflies. She hears the fountain and the babbling babies. She feels the cool breeze and she smiles. For now, she's never alone. And that was a bit from the last part of The Miracle on Sundar Bagh Street. I wanted to share, the whole miracle of not only the garden, that they transformed this dump yard into a beautiful garden, but the miracle of transformation that the garden brought about in all their lives. And just to share with you all, when I launched this book, who attended that launch event was the whole team that had actually worked on the real garden near my house. And they shared so many wonderful stories, because till now, right through pandemic, right through now, they still get together and work on that garden every week, every Saturday and Sunday now. And they said, we've not done anything great, but the garden has done great things for us. We've made new friends. We are a community. They all celebrate their birthdays in that garden, just like, with Miss Guppi's cake. A lot of the stuff in this book actually happened with this, they call it the Dream Grove in Bandra, where I stay. So with the Dream Grove, a lot of the bits that I've used in this story actually happened to them, and they shared their story. So this gives you a little feel of how I use real life, real events, very often real places around me, and weave it into a fictional story with some message.
Thank you, Nandita ma'am, for that wonderful story. Now I would like to call upon Madhurya ma'am to conclude the session.
Hi, thank you so much. Thank you so much for handing me over. Just give me 2 seconds. I'm just trying to turn my video on. Hi, guys, am I visible? I'm not sure. My laptop camera is causing some problem.
Oh, hi, ma'am.
And also, am I audible? Hi, Nandita ma'am. Thank you so much. I was actually so much lost in the story and I just lost the track of time. Okay, so keep trying till you get it, and self-motivation is the best motivation. This is my key takeaway from today's session from hearing your story. Hi everyone, I am Madhurya, Manager CEO Office Amrit Vidyalaya. Wow, after such an amazing and insightful session, where my mind was constantly actually juggling between getting lost in Nandita ma'am's super inspiring journey. And the last 5-8 minutes, I just completely forgot that I am at my home in front of the laptop and I was in Sundar Bagh, I was in Zara's garden, I was literally visualizing her blooms and everything. Thank you so much, Nandita ma'am. And yeah, and then just coming back and reflecting on the deep insights of her lovely innocent stories. Thank you so much, ma'am, for sharing your time with us and giving us such a beautiful experience with your reading.
It's entirely my pleasure. And I enjoyed all the questions as well.
Yes, ma'am, you definitely answered all the questions. And a lot more takeaway, a lot more than so much engagement from all the students.
Yes.
I really want to thank Kavish sir, without whom this session wouldn't have been possible, and also Vivek sir and his students. Guys, can you please come up mute and call out your names so that we all can acknowledge you? Okay, I think the students. I think it was Zainab, Krishnapal, and Vedant. Can you guys quickly introduce yourself, from which class you are, to everyone?
I am from class 6th A.
Sixth. Yes, thank you so much, Krishnapal. Vedant
And
and
from class 5th B.
Thank you, Vedant.
My name is Zainab Gora from class 6B.
Thank you, Zainab. Thank you so much, guys. You did an amazing job in hosting the session. And thank you, Vivek sir, for coordinating with the students, for preparing them for this session today. I really want to thank our principal sir, Vipin sir, our director of Wellbeing and Growth, Madam Mohita ma'am, for being an active, for their active engagement in Amrit Vani, for letting us make it possible. Thanks to all our teachers for coordinating and for engaging the students so actively. Thank you so much, ma'am, again for your time. We are going to walk into the weekend with amazing memories. Thank you, everyone.
Likewise. And thank you to all the 3 students for your thought-provoking questions. Wish everyone a very happy weekend.
Yes. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you so much, everyone, guys. You can drop off. Happy weekend.